Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video I want to take a look at how badly was Outlaw Rogue nerfed. If you guys weren't aware, as of this Tuesday or Wednesday for EU, there was a variety of different class buffs. Say if you're a Frost, DK, Unholy Death Knight, Destro Warlock, Arms Warrior, or a Resto Shaman, you guys got buffs. 5% buff for all the DPS, and the healer got like a 10% or 20%, 15% maybe even increase to some of your single target heals, 20% to your healing rain. Your Wellspring Talon got a 15% buff, and Riptide got a 15% buff. That's awesome, but one spec got some nerfs. That is Outlaw, primarily in the AoE department, where Outlaw is dominating in Mythic Plus. So today I want to take a look at just how big these nerfs are. I'm actually about to dive into a Mythic Plus key right now, so I'm gonna see what this nerfs looks like. So let's take a look at the nerfs so far. So the nerf to Outlaw is to our Blade Flurry. Blade Flurry now does 30% base AoE cleave damage instead of 45. That's a pretty heavy nerf. So I was really hoping that this wouldn't be as big. And I'm hoping, because I haven't tested this, I got trained dummies right in front of me to test this to really tell you how it feels. But I'm just hoping every time Blizzard nerfs a thing, whether it's my class or another person's class, whether it's a spec that I like or spec that I never played, I'm just hoping the nerfs aren't too heavy-handed, because it doesn't feel that good to take something that's really good at this one thing and squash it down so it's not worse than other specs. You know, it's fine when they nerfed Shadow Priest. We all thought that was going to be a massive nerf, but Shadow Priests are still doing amazing in this new raid tier, and they're still blowing people away, even though the cleave with that playstyle has been nerfed again and again. So hopefully this is one of those nerfs that's enough to nerf down Outlaw to kind of suppress the damage a little bit, but not enough to where it's now the worst at this one thing that is getting nerfed in. Another thing that got nerfed, and I haven't got to see this yet, but there it is. Blade Flurry, when an attack Blade Flurries, increase your chance to Sinister Strike, or for Sinister Strike to strike again by 3% instead of 5. And now it stacks to 33 chances. So this means that it takes us longer to build up that 100% that Sinister Strike will hit again an extra enemy. So what I want to do first of all is get a setup that I do for my Mythic Plus. I got my Mythic Plus gear on. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful setup. Mythic Plus gear is engaged. Haven't opened my Mythic Plus chest at all. But the idea is to see what the AoE damage is like. One thing I want to show you guys first is I want to showcase the burst potential that Outlaw usually has. I want to see how big this damage is and see if it's a lot lower. I did this yesterday on stream, so I'm going to try to demonstrate to see how big this damage nerf is. Let's actually go and build up the calm points off of this train dummy just so I can have the perfect setup here. Now we're ready. Here we go. This is going to be interesting. I cannot wait to see what this is going to look like. Let's get the big AoE damage going. I'm not getting any procs for Sinister Strikes. Oh my goodness, it stacks up so high. Oh lordy. Oh lordy. But you can still do quite a lot of damage, but I could already feel the damage drop off from the very beginning. Normally I'd be doing about, what I would like to say, above 100k on 4 targets. Now I'm doing 80k. This is weird, man. Oh my goodness. I wonder how this is going to be on a 2-target, 3-target setup. Good thing that I got a Mythic Plus that I'm about to engage into, and I'll be able to test my numbers against some of the classes and see just how much AoE damage I'm able to put out. But wow, this already feels noticeably worse, unless maybe at the time of last time I tried this, I had like a full setup with all my flasks and pots and everything. So maybe the damage difference is there, but I didn't spike nearly as high as I wanted. Big AoE pop off, big damage. We spiked up pretty high, but already dropping. I just re-rolled to a wrong buff. So we already, okay, 100k while we got the buffs. Okay, we're gonna get the Blade Flurry up and running. So we spiked up pretty high, but I already saw the cleave damage being not nearly as high as I wanted to be. And right now I can get my cleave to be a maximum of 35. I wonder if that's really what Blizzard is. Yeah, my numbers are much lower than normally they would be. So I didn't have a mistake with the opener. But normally afterwards with the auto attack damage, the damage is way above 60k. Now a normal number of how much damage you should be doing on 4 targets, do you think it should be 60k? Depends on the spec, I guess, but Outlaw normally held maybe about 20k per enemy around you because of the way Blade Flurry would work and the big crits that you would have on a singular target. Basically, you would think 20k per enemy. So that was absurd, right? Not a lot of specs and classes can reach that kind of number, but for Outlaw, that was not really an uncommon deal. So after recording my initial thoughts with Outlaw after hitting it on a couple train dummies, I've been able to do a bunch of Mythic Plus keys. And I actually was able to do keys that are a new record for the season for me with a 17 freehold, not really a big key, and an 18 underrot, which I was surprised that we were actually able to do it. But overall, I was able to play Outlaw just fine and push progression content. In terms of AoE damage, single damage output, yes, there is a noticeable difference. When playing Outlaw, I like to min-max my setup, and one of the strengths of Outlaw is the AoE damage, so I try to put as much effort into my burst AoE. And I've already noticed that my burst AoE is far lower than it usually is. But how is Outlaw against other specs and classes? So far, I've been able to run with a variety of classes, not every spec that I want to see. One spec I haven't been able to verse against is a really good Fury Warrior. But against majority of the other specs, Outlaw is still ahead in AoE as well as overall of all the other specs. So if you're looking for a spec that's still gonna do damage ahead of the pack, Outlaw still has the punch. It's just not quite as prominent and not quite as massive. So in terms of doing total damage as Outlaw, you'll be just fine in dungeons. But if you're looking to min-max damage and you're someone who's used to already in terms of the current Outlaw playstyle and build that we had prior to this nerf, yeah, this is going to feel a little bit jarring. One of the things I noticed when doing Mythic Plus dungeons is Blood of the Enemy versus the Meme Beam. The Iris Beam is what a lot of classes use in Mythic Plus in order to supplement for a little bit more AoE damage. It's not a terrible trait on its own for single target, and it does quite a number, has a fairly short cooldown. The haze buff that it provides, most of the classes can utilize that haze buff in one way or another. But as Outlaw, since I'm playing very heavy on crit, a rank 3 Blood of the Enemy allowed me to really amp up my burst in certain key packs, as well as some boss fights, just by a little bit higher, primarily when dealing with the beguiling adds. Outlaw is really good at cleave AoE, but in terms of single target, you are really just as bursty as the buffs that you get. So with the Blood of the Enemy, I was able to get a little bit more of pressure on a beguiling ad to finish him off far quicker. Right now, I'm not quite able to run the Blood of the Enemy as efficiently unless I'm using it strictly on beguiling ads. It doesn't work quite as well on the other ads since your burst is a lot lower now, so you really feel like you're missing out on a value. So it's a lot better to go with the Iris with the straight up Meme Beam, because that's going to be consistent damage whether you have AoE, whether you don't have AoE. And it can be used on single target or 2 target cleave or more in order to supplement for far more damage. Over the last week, I've been pushing keys, trying to make sure I get a 15 in every single one of those keys, and I was able to unlock the Iris, which is the Meme Beam, the legendary skin for it, the cosmetic option. It looks awesome, but it just shows you just how much I've been playing Outlaw, and I've gotten at least a 15 in every single Mythic Plus key this season. So, with how much time I've been spending with my Outlaw Mythic Plus, and I'm someone who pays attention to the minute details, I definitely can notice a change with my Outlaw. I can definitely notice the damage output and the burstiness of my spec is lower when it comes to cleave AoE. The cleave AoE is also going to be a little bit less when it comes to 2 target cleave. With a 2 target cleave, you would have basically, with a talent, 50% of single target damage splashing onto an extra target. So if you are playing against, let's say, an arms warrior who is specialized at cleaving 2 targets, or any other specs that are specialized at hitting 2 targets in particular, those specs are going to be a lot better at it. And I haven't got to test this, but my thought process is the same with a Fury Warrior and a Marksman Hunter, for example. Specs that are locked to cleaving a maximum of 5 or less enemies. So if you have 5 enemies, this is where those specs are going to spike up to the hardest. Outlaw, on the other hand, it has that versatility, but the damage needs to be scaled down because of that freedom of versatility. You would turn on Blade Flurry on 2 target, 3 target, 4 target, 5 target, any amount above 1. And you have that flexibility to turn it on whether it's a 2 target cleave, or a 3 target, or a 10 target. But certain other specs I feel like are gonna start to get ahead of Outlaw, like arms in a 2 target or a marksman in a 5 target because of their playstyle with this recent nerf to an Outlaw. Are people gonna start dropping rogues? I don't think so. Outlaw rogue just brings in too much to the table. You bring in a constant stun uptime as part of your rotation, so you can stun lock enemies, gouge, interrupt, grapple hook, vanish, shroud of concealment, your regular interrupt, blind, as well as sheep shot, sap, in order to help CC certain mobs to get around them, for example. As well as vanish with a million uses, whether it is used as a defensive to dodge a certain spell that would hit you, or maybe pull a group of enemies to the side, vanish to get them to reset, and while the enemies are away from a choke point or a funnel, your allies can slip by without drawing aggro. So rogue already brings a lot to the table to begin with. So everybody's gonna want a rogue. Whether you play Assassination or Outlaw, it's gonna be a little bit closer. An Outlaw isn't going to just be the king of all types of damage. There are going to be specs that are good at burst. There are going to be specs that are good at 2 target or a small amount of target cleave. Outlaw has that flexibility to cleave as many enemies as they want. Outlaw also has the advantage of having a spec that works for everything. You can have a build that's not too far on single target, because Outlaw, you can't really grow too crazy on single target. You don't really have a full single target build. You naturally cleave. So you can facilitate a bit more towards the cleave without losing out that much single target, unlike Assassination, which has to rebuild your gear with the Azeroth traits and talents in order to either be really good at cleave, really good at single target. And Assassination is the type of spec where if you try to kind of have a half and half playstyle, you really come up with a lukewarm build. While Outlaw naturally does cleave, and you can solidify your single target through traits, and your traits will naturally cleave because of Blade Flurry, and you amp up your Blade Flurry through a few talents, and then you have a very balanced spec that's really good at both. So there's still an advantage of picking Outlaw over Assassination. There is a reason why people would take a rogue into a group. There is a reason why people would take an Outlaw rogue into the group, and I could still see groups stacking maybe 1, maybe 2 Outlaw rogues. It will be very interesting, particularly in the Mythic Plus invitational stuff, because the reason why Outlaw rogues got nerfed is because in the MDI, the time trials, where people are trying to get the dungeons done as soon as possible, a lot of groups were running triple Outlaw, mostly because the spec was just too good, the utility is amazing, the damage output is just way too good, and it promoted less class diversity. So now with this change, maybe more classes that are good at certain roles might be brought in for certain Mythic Plus dungeons. Long story short, Outlaw is going to be just fine. You might notice that you're dealing slightly less damage, but you'll be a-okay. The only issue I have currently with Outlaw is potentially our viability within raids, where Outlaw can cheese a little bit of AoE damage. With this nerf, we might be a little bit less cheese-worthy, and our single target is simply not as consistent as that of an Assassination. So if you guys want to play an Outlaw main, some guilds might require for you to at least have a full set of Assassination gear, just so progression can be easier, particularly in the Mythic raid department. I'm still going to give Outlaw a go in raids, and if Outlaw is really not bad a state for raids, I'll be sure to update you guys in the comments of this video or something. But outside of that, Outlaw seems to be doing fairly okay. Man, this video was kind of long, but I actually had a lot of fun exploring and trying to detail to you guys how Outlaw rogue is affected. I personally enjoy these types of videos where I can really dive into the depths of topics, particularly with a spec that I very like, but also it'll be just as good with specs that I'm not even maining in. I like this kind of stuff, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this type of video because this was super fun to make. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you still going to be playing Outlaw, or maybe Assassination might be a spec that's on your horizons? Everybody let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see all of you in another one.